You know that feeling when something is off but you can't quite name it? When he's physically present but somewhere else entirely? When his phone gets locked the second you walk in the room? When he suddenly cares about his appearance in ways he never did before? When his explanations for where he's been don't quite line up, not dramatically, just slightly? Most women ignore this feeling. They convince themselves they're being paranoid. They rationalize. They make excuses for behavior that deep down they know doesn't make sense. But you're not going to do that because something in you is already suspicious. And you're here because you want to know what you're actually looking at. The thing about an avoidant man is that he's already hiding. That's his baseline. He hides his emotions, his vulnerabilities, his past, the reasons he can't really let anyone close. So when he's actively hiding something or someone, it doesn't always look like the dramatic red flags you see in movies. It looks like a shift in an already distant pattern. It looks like distance getting colder. It looks like someone who was already compartmentalizing his life suddenly becoming expert at it. Let me show you what that actually looks like, because if you're seeing these things, you need to know you're not crazy. The first thing an avoidant man does when he's hiding another woman is he becomes obsessively protective of his phone in a way that's different from normal privacy. Now, avoidant men are always somewhat guarded with their phones. They don't want you seeing their private thoughts, their conversations, the evidence of how emotionally unavailable they're being. That's standard, but when there's someone else, it shifts. He doesn't just keep his phone face down anymore. He actively turns away from you when he's using it. He takes it to the bathroom. He has it on him in a way that feels almost aggressive, like he's securing a perimeter around something you're not allowed to access. He might even get defensive faster than usual if you glance over at the screen. And the thing that's telling is how sudden this shift is. If he's been relatively relaxed about his phone for months or even years, and suddenly it's like he's guarding state secrets, that's not about privacy. That's about protecting access to someone specific. He might make jokes about how you're so nosy or playfully chide you for looking over his shoulder, but there's an edge to it that wasn't there before. That edge is him managing his guilt by establishing a boundary he's desperate you don't cross. Because if you do, you'll see things he's not ready for you to see. The second thing he does is he changes his sexual availability in a way that's telling. Now, avoidant men are often inconsistent with sex anyway. They can be into it, then withdrawn, then into it again. But what's different when he's seeing someone else is the pattern of how that unavailability shows up. He might suddenly be less interested in you specifically, while simultaneously seeming more sexual in general. He's dressing better, working out more, taking more care with his appearance. He's got energy he didn't have before. And yet when you try to initiate with him, he's too tired, too stressed, not in the mood. But somehow he always has energy for his own pleasure. He might want quickies with you, but not real intimacy. He might avoid certain things that used to be normal between you because they feel too connected, too intimate, too much like the relationship you're trying to maintain with him. What's actually happening is he's rationing his emotional and physical energy. He's got bandwidth for someone else now, and you're getting the leftovers, the maintenance level affection that keeps you from fully leaving, but nowhere near satisfies you. He knows instinctively that if he keeps you completely satisfied sexually, you'll trust him. So he gives you just enough to keep hope alive, but not enough to feel genuinely connected. It's a calculated distance, and it works because you keep thinking, maybe if you try harder, be more creative, initiate more, he'll want you again the way he used to. But he won't, because his sexual energy is going somewhere else. The third thing he does is he creates explanations that don't require your presence. This is subtle, so pay attention. An avoidant man always likes to have his own space, his own time, his own activities away from you. But when he's hiding another woman, his reasons for that space become less about needing alone time and more about creating an alibi. He'll suddenly be working late more often, or he'll have picked up a new gym routine that has very specific hours, or he'll need to help a friend with something, and it's always on the same day of the week, or he's got this new hobby he's really into, and he goes to do it at these particular times. The details are specific enough to sound believable, but vague enough that you can't really verify them. He's not lying exactly. He might actually be at the gym, but he's not there for the entire time he says he is. Or the gym happens to be near her place. Or he goes there after seeing her because he needs to have an explanation for where he's been. What's important is that these explanations create a structure. They create predictable times when he's unavailable. And if you ever ask to come along or suggest hanging out during one of these blocks, he suddenly has reasons why you can't. The timing doesn't work, or it's boring, or he really needs that time alone. He's built a fortress of justifications around these windows, and you probably haven't even noticed how consistent they are until you start really paying attention. The fourth thing an avoidant man does when he's hiding another woman is he stops the small intimacies, the physical touch that doesn't lead anywhere, the casual check-ins during the day, the little conversations about nothing important, the affection that's not building towards sex. You might notice he's less likely to text you during the day for no reason. He doesn't put his hand on your back when you're walking together the way he used to. He doesn't reach for you at night in that half-asleep way that felt tender. He doesn't ask how your day was in a way that actually wanted to know the answer. He's still technically present, but the micro connections that make a relationship feel real are disappearing. This is not the same as his normal avoidant withdrawal. This is calculated. He's trying to keep the relationship intact without feeding it the small moments of closeness that would make him feel guilty. Because small moments of tenderness create a sense of intimacy that he can't reconcile with what he's doing elsewhere, so he eliminates them. It's the difference between someone who needs space and someone who's maintaining an emotional distance specifically to protect a secret. And that distance feels different because it is different. It feels less like he needs time to himself and more like he's making sure not to get too connected to me. It's a withdrawal with purpose. The fifth thing he does is he gets defensive about assumptions you haven't even made. This one is really telling because it reveals guilt before there's been any accusation. You might casually mention that a friend ran into someone he knows, and suddenly he's explaining who she is and why they know each other. You didn't ask, you just made a comment, but his immediate impulse to over-explain, to get ahead of a question you didn't ask, is him trying to manage a narrative you don't even know exists yet. He might also get angry faster than usual if you suggest he's distant or if you express that you feel disconnected from him. Instead of his normal withdrawal into silence, he actually snaps at you. The anger is disproportionate to what you said. You're not accusing him of anything, you're just expressing hurt, but he's responding like you've attacked him. That anger is guilt. Guilt doesn't like to sit quietly. Guilt lashes out. He might also start making digs at you in ways he didn't used to, commenting on your appearance, questioning your choices, suggesting you're being too needy or too clingy or too much in some way. He's creating distance emotionally by making you the problem. If you're the problem, then his distance makes sense. If you're too much, then he needs space. If you're too clingy, then he has every right to pull away. He's not rewriting the narrative for you. He's rewriting it for himself so he can do what he's doing without feeling like the bad guy. Now, here's what's important to understand. Not every man who's protective of his phone is cheating. Not every man who needs space is hiding someone else. Some men just have anxious attachment styles that make them need distance. Some men just value privacy. Not every behavioral shift means infidelity. But when these 5 things are happening simultaneously, when you're seeing a pattern rather than isolated incidents, when multiple things are shifting in ways that all point in the same direction, you're probably not paranoid. Your instincts are probably correct. But here's what I want you to understand that's even more important than whether he's physically with someone else, whether he's technically cheating or whether he's just deeply checked out. The reality is the same. He's not present with you anymore. He's not available to you. He's rationing his energy, his attention, his affection. He's managing your relationship like it's something he has to maintain at baseline, rather than something he actually wants to be in. And that's not something you can fix with better behavior, or more understanding, or more space, or better communication. Because this is not about you not being enough. This is not about you being too much. This is about him being someone who's already wired for distance, someone who can't handle real closeness without creating an escape route, and he's finally taken it. The painful part is that you probably already knew something was wrong before you started seeing these signs. You felt it. Women have an almost supernatural ability to feel when something's off in a relationship, even when they can't articulate what. You kept asking yourself if you were crazy. You kept wondering if you were being paranoid. You kept trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then you started seeing these signs. And instead of feeling relief, that you were right all along, you probably felt something worse, because now you have to do something about it. Now you have to face the fact that the man you've been trying so hard to understand, the man you've been excusing and explaining and making space for, is not actually being honest with you. And more than that, he's not being honest with himself. Because here's the thing about an avoidant man who's hiding another woman. He's not actually choosing her over you in some clear, decisive way. He's running from both of you. He's keeping you around because you're comfortable, because you're familiar, because ending it would require him to actually feel something and explain something. And he's got someone else because he needed to know he could still be wanted, that he could still generate attraction, that there was a version of him that wasn't completely incapable of connection. He's not happy with either of you. He's just in motion, trying to outrun the thing that scares him most, which is the possibility of actually staying in one place long enough to learn how to love. And you're caught in the middle of his flight. The question now is not whether he's cheating. The question is whether you're going to keep standing there waiting for him to figure out his own life while your life gets smaller and smaller, trying to accommodate his chaos. Because that's what happens. You start monitoring his behavior more carefully. You start checking his phone when you can. You start arranging your schedule around his schedule so you can be there if he suddenly shows up emotionally. You start asking him questions framed as concern, but actually coming from a place of suspicion. You start becoming someone you don't recognize, all in an attempt to prove that he's cheating or prove that he's not, as if one answer is better than the other. But both answers are actually the same answer. Both answers mean this relationship is over. The only question is whether you get to decide when that ends or whether you wait for him to figure it out first. If he's cheating, you're in a relationship with someone who's lying to you and covering his tracks and managing narratives. That's not a relationship. That's a situation. If he's not technically cheating, but exhibiting all of these signs, he's checked out anyway. He's emotionally unavailable. He's rationing affection. He's protecting his privacy in ways that suggest he's got something to hide. Even if it's not another woman, maybe it's another life entirely. Maybe it's just the fact that he doesn't actually want to be in a relationship with you, but doesn't have the courage to say it. Either way, you're not getting a real partnership. You're not getting honesty. You're not getting presence. You're not getting someone who's choosing you. And you deserve all of those things. I know that's hard to sit with, especially if you've already invested months or years into waiting for him to show up emotionally. Especially if you've already told yourself that once you understand his patterns, once you learn not to chase him, once you give him the right amount of space, he'll finally be the man you know he could be. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to hear in the middle of that waiting. If he's hiding another woman, it's not because you didn't understand him well enough. It's because he doesn't have the capacity to be transparent. And that's not a skill issue. That's not something you can teach him. That's not something that changes because you become a better partner. He can only change if he wants to. And a man who's actively hiding something doesn't want to change. He wants to continue exactly as he is, which is unavailable, dishonest, and protected. So what do you do with this information? First, trust your instincts. You came here because something felt wrong. Something probably is wrong. Your nervous system has been picking up on these signals, and you don't get to override it just because he's good at making excuses, or because you love him, or because you've already invested time. Second, stop trying to catch him. I know it's tempting. I know you want proof so you can confront him, so you can finally get answers. But catching someone in a lie doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't make him suddenly honest. It doesn't make him suddenly capable of real intimacy. It just gives him something else to defend and another reason to pull further away. Third, stop building your life around managing his behavior. Stop arranging your schedule to catch him. Stop checking his location. Stop asking questions you don't really want the answers to. Stop trying to find evidence that justifies your suspicion. That's the person he's making you become, and you don't deserve that. Fourth, understand that if he's hiding another woman, some part of him knows that what he's doing is wrong. Some part of him has enough conscience to feel guilty enough to be defensive, to over-explain, to create distance so he doesn't have to see the impact of his actions on you. Don't mistake that conscience for capacity for change. The fact that he feels guilty hasn't stopped him from doing it, and feeling guilty won't stop him from doing it again. Fifth, and this is the one that matters most, decide what you actually need from a relationship and whether staying in this one aligns with that. Do you need honesty? You're not getting it. Do you need presence? He's not offering it. Do you need someone who's all in? He's already made it clear he's hedging his bets. You can stay if you want to. You can wait to see if he comes clean. You can give him another chance if he promises to do better. You can tell yourself that maybe you misread the signs, or that maybe he'll change, or that maybe your love is enough to anchor him somewhere. But you should know what you're choosing. You're choosing to be with someone who's dishonest. You're choosing to be with someone who doesn't respect you enough to be faithful or to be clear about his limitations. You're choosing to be with someone who prefers deception over difficult conversation. And you're choosing to shrink yourself in the process. Because once you know these signs, once you know what you're looking at, you can't unsee them. You'll be monitoring his behavior for the rest of the relationship. You'll never fully trust him. You'll never be completely at ease. That's not love. That's surveillance. That's not a partnership. That's a prison you're building for yourself, one suspicion at a time. The version of you that walks away from this, the version that says, I deserve better than this, that version is not losing. She's winning. She's choosing her own peace over his comfort. She's choosing clarity over false hope. She's choosing herself. And that matters more than whether he ever admits to what he's been doing. Because the truth is, you already know. Some part of you walked in here already knowing. You just wanted confirmation that what you were seeing was real. You wanted permission to trust yourself. So here it is. Trust yourself. You're not crazy. These patterns are real. Your instincts are right. And you're worth more than managing a man who's already made it clear he's not capable of showing up. Whatever you decide next, decide it from that place. From the place that knows you deserve honesty, presence, and someone who's all in. Not from the place of hope that he'll eventually choose you. Not from the place of sunk costs. Not from the place of not wanting to be alone. Decide from the place that knows you're already enough, and you don't need to stay in a situation that denies that just to prove it.